All right, the budget deal not going over well with a number of conservative lawmakers. Well, tonight I sat down with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, to talk about his critics and exactly what he's got planned should a Supreme Court seat open up in 2020. You know, there are plenty of critics on the left and the right. Senator Braun, one of your freshmen, had this to say.
I'd say disappointed is an understatement. Kind of my worst fear. I remember back on the campaign trail when the continuing resolution was done to re-enable defense. And I thought I heard the president say last time.
Well, his worst fear would have been the other two alternatives. A one-year continuing resolution, which would have kneecapped the Defense Department, or a sequester, which would have been worse than a kneecap for the Defense Department. It would have gone down $71 billion in December. When you have divided government in a situation like this should be described as the least worst alternative. We got the number we wanted on defense. There will be no Democratic riders, what we call poison pills, to pursue their left-wing agenda. All of those are walled off. And it'll be a chaos-free government for a year and a half. In other words, no short-term CRs, no short-term debt ceilings. It will at least present to the American people what they would expect, which is that the government would operate in a normal fashion. I think that's worth a lot. We knew we'd have to give with this Democratic House more spending on the domestic side. We knew that going in. I think Secretary Mnuchin did a wonderful job, a spectacular job, in fact, of negotiating this with Speaker Pelosi.
What do you say to the critics, fiscal conservatives, who say that you or the White House have lost some significant leverage? You mentioned that this goes past the next presidential election. How do you address their concerns?
Well, what I would say to the critics, if they're really concerned about spending, this is not the problem. Entitlements are the problem, and they're really popular. It's hard to explain for television, but it's just less than half of what we actually spend and we get to vote on. And so the debt is way too large. It was almost double during the Obama years. But the Democrats won the House. Elections have consequences. They love to spend. And so the American people expect us to make the best of an imperfect situation.
Speaking of spending, the president has talked about the 2020 field, the Democrats, and all the new programs that they have talked about that they hope to introduce. He said this.
Socialism is not as easy to beat as you think. When you're wealthy and you're doing record stocks and you have 401ks and you have all of the things that you have and everybody's doing well, and somebody comes along and say, we're going to give you free everything, everything's going to be free.
How do folks run against that next year?
Let me tell you how to run against it. Margaret Thatcher said the problem with socialism is pretty soon you run out of other people's money. But they're talking about, free health care, paying free college tuition. Look, the Green New Deal would take away your job. Medicare for All would take away 180 million Americans' private health insurance. And if they made any effort to pay for it, they'd have to have such a massive tax increase it would slow the economy further. That's what they have in mind. The only place where I think the president's off base on this, it's a lot bigger than the Squad. That's just 4 people. This has become mainstream Democratic policy. If they get the entire government, that's what we're going to get. I've said as long as I'm the majority leader of the Senate, I've smilingly said I'm going to be the Grim Reaper. None of that stuff is going to pass the Senate. We're not going to stand by and let America become a socialist country.
So what do you do about the polls that show a growing number of people, especially the younger generation, they don't necessarily have a negative impression of socialism, which is what they're being offered by the other side? Well,
I think we have to define it. And I've just tried to do that with you, and we're going to do that in the campaigns. Campaigns make a difference. It's when you lay out your best case and try to be as convincing as possible that your prescription for the country is better than theirs. And here we are in a boom. Lowest unemployment in 50 years, 3% GDP growth, and they're talking about socialism? I mean, we have more people looking for work than there are jobs. Nobody can remember when that last happened. This part of our country is not broken and doesn't need fixing with this kind of prescription, which would turn us into a socialist country.
So something you have been able to get done in the Senate with the president's help, your GOP colleagues' help, is filling a record number of federal bench seats for judges. Of course, the question continues to come up. If there were to be a Supreme Court opening next year, would you fill it? Upon you saying that, yes, that you would move ahead with that, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeted just very simply, Senator McConnell is a hypocrite.
Well, he's wrong, but he's forgotten that I said back in 2016 when correctly I made the call not to fill the Supreme Court vacancy in the middle of the presidential election. I pointed out that you'd have to go back to the 1880s to find the last time a vacancy created in a presidential election year was confirmed by a Senate of a different party from the president. We do not have a Senate of a different party from the president. We will leave no vacancy behind. We'll keep confirming these young men and women to both circuit courts and district courts until the end of next year, for sure. And if the American people give the president another term and we have the Senate, we're going to keep on doing it.
And as you and I are talking, we're just hours away from former special counsel Robert Mueller heading to Capitol Hill. Any expectations or predictions you have for his testimony?
The case is closed. You know, they want him to read his report. The American people have moved on from this. You saw the vote over in the House recently on taking up impeachment. It didn't get much support. I think they don't understand that presidential harassment all the way to the election is not going to help them win.
Well, we'll see. They, of course, think that the question of collusion is still out there, and it appears they're going to press the former special counsel on the issue of whether or not he stood back from making a decision on that because of the OLC memo saying that you can't indict a sitting president. How much attention do you think that will get tomorrow?
Not much. I mean, I think the American people are not going to tune into this much.